A subject dear to every contractor's heart is making money out of projects. That is what they're there for, after all. Under the NEC, that's sort of wrapped up in two ways. One is in overheads and one is in profit, together called fee. How, though, does the contractor ensure, particularly on an option C style contract, but even on option A, that where he's got fee that's being claimed by subcontractors to him, that he recovers the full overhead, the full cost to him of his subcontractor, but also then his cost and profit margin on top of that, Ian?
Well, under the contract you have the fee, which is made up of two fee percentages, the subcontract fee percentage and the direct fee percentage. Obviously the subcontract fee percentage applied to the cost of subcontractors. So under an option C, D, E, F, the subcontractor costs are basically a pass-through, in that the main contractor will pass through what they pay their subcontractor, including the subcontractor's fee, as part of their defined cost. And on top of that, the main contractor will apply their fee to recover their overhead costs. Under options A and B, it becomes more complicated because you have a different mechanism whereby when you come to assess defined cost, which is only now for assessing compensation events, that is priced as if the work is being done by the main contractor. It's almost at net cost. Therefore, the main contractor needs to look at their subcontract fee percentage to have their recovery, and also any additional recovery they agree to give to their subcontractors.
So in theory, that sounds really simple, that you've got these two fee elements. But one of the big problems is that we don't procure, as a industry, we don't procure our full subcontract supply chain at day one. So the contractor, when he's appointed, won't necessarily know what fee percentage his subcontractors are going to include, and therefore what he needs to uplift them by in order to add his overhead and fee recovery. How can a contractor deal with that, John?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do as a contractor is you have to start early. If you get and look at your main packages and get bids on from your main packages, and that might even be saying, okay, your actual price for this package might come in 2 days before we actually have to submit our tender, but to equalise our fee percentages, can we have that 2 weeks before or whatever it is? But actually it is more complicated than that, because actually it applies to all rates percentages which the contractor is going to tender. So if the contractor, if under an option A the client says, the employer says, give me rates for a labourer, and those are going to be used as part of the schedule of cost components rather than building up from scratch, the main contractor also has to make sure their subcontractors give lesser rates, because otherwise they're going to be losing out on those. Now if they do it well, it's a source of extra profit. If they get it wrong, it undermines, well, either way, it undermines the principle of fair reimbursement plus margin.
But doesn't that put the contractor absolutely in the hands of the market in a macro sense? And if the market's rising and subcontractors are able to charge more and make more fee recovery because of scarcity of resource, the main contractor is always going to be penalised. And in a falling market, he, in theory, might make some gains which are, perhaps from an employer's point of view, illegitimate, because he's able to push the price down on his supply chain and increase his recovery. Neither one seems to sit very comfortably with a collaborative means of contracting, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it is a risk for a contractor. I mean, I think NEC 3 is an improvement on NEC 2, where I think there was just the one fee percentage. So they have introduced this subcontractor percentage in NEC 3. But yes, that is a risk of contracting as far as I see it. And to, as John was saying, flushing out the subcontractor's fee percentage as early as possible is advantageous. But on day one of a contract, you don't necessarily know who all your subcontractors are going to be. But maybe with a good supply chain, a big main contractor should know his subcontractors and have a historical record of the sorts of fees that they may include.
So Ian, when you're advising clients at the procurement stage and you're sort of seeing these contracts or these tender bids coming back, is that an area that they focus on, particularly if you get someone's clearly made an error or didn't understand how those percentages are going to work because they're both set at I don't know, 5% would be an unrealistic fee percentage for most projects. But if they're both set at the same level, so it appears on the face of it that there's a misunderstanding of how that's going to operate. Is that something that gets flagged?
I think it should do. Certainly I would highlight that to clients if I thought there was an issue around that, because you don't want to go into a contract with a misapprehension at the start that's going to cause problems later on. Albeit you've got to look at the procurement rules you're working under, what can you do in terms of going back to the contractors and having that conversation. So wherever you can compliant with the procurement rules, then absolutely. But I think this is really not such a big issue under option C, D, E and F. It's only A and B this is primarily a concern. So I think you need to be, again, mindful of the main option to determine how much of an issue this is going to be.
Summarising that conversation then, I think the issue here isn't as big probably as it's made out to be. And I think that's the upshot. The real key is understanding that there is a difference between these two fee percentages depending on what option you're under, and to make sure that you engage early as a contractor with your supply chain, get a good understanding of what percentage is coming up the line, so that you can ensure that your percentage is added on top of that, and you're not trying to cobble together some sort of argument that enables you to make a recovery which doesn't sit comfortably within the contract mechanism. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.